Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Cooking Together live from Austin, Texas. We're so excited about today's episode. We have Duplechan from Lenoir restaurant in South Austin on South First Street. Hi, Izzy.
Hello.
And his son is here with him too. And we're gonna talk about cooking. We're gonna talk about cooking without a recipe. We're gonna talk about restaurants in the era of COVID-19. We're going to talk about local produce and incorporating them into menus and all kinds of other things. So I hope that you can have lunch with us today and stick around. Feel free to write comments and... We lost him for a minute.
Oops.
And we will get back to you later if we can't get back to you right away, but you can also chat with the other people watching. So part of today's show, we're going to be making lunch out of what we have available in the refrigerator. So I pulled out a bunch of things from the refrigerator, and Todd is going to help me come up with something to make. Some of the things that I pulled out of my refrigerator. I've got some cauliflower, I've got some ginger and garlic, and some button mushrooms. Have some greens. Okay, so Todd is back.
I'm back.
We'll get back to the produce in just a minute. I just wanted to introduce you and have you actually introduce yourself a little bit. I've been to your restaurant a few times and we really, really love it. It's the most intimate, wonderful dining experience in a small dining room on South Lamar. It's beautifully decorated.
Great date night.
Yeah, it's great for a date night or a small party. We've been there with a couple of friends before, and you can just hear each other talk. And we had a great experience with your sommelier recommending wines to go with our food. And it's the type of restaurant where every time you go, the menu is a little bit different. And we appreciate that too, because at Lenoir, they really take advantage of what's available and in season locally. So anyway, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you started the restaurant and how you came up with the concept. And also, I was interested in, maybe we'll just start with that.
Well, we started the restaurant in 2011, and the whole idea of the restaurant started with thinking of the farmers first and how do we make our farmers' jobs the easiest. I remember my wife and I moved here in 2007. We went to the farmers market and we were farmers. And what I noticed from a lot of chefs was that they were asking farmers to grow things.
Okay, we lost Todd's connection. But when we've been to Lenoir restaurant, what we really, really appreciated was all the local produce that he was using, and that the menu was really creative, and every time we went, it was something a little bit different. And it's been a while since we've been there, so I can't remember exactly what we had, but we were able to get recommendations about what wine we should order to go with the menu. And there was always like an option for a vegan or vegetarian option, a couple of seafood options, a meat or chicken option. And there were always like some very interesting meats and lots of different vegetables on the menu too. And so I think they loosely have a French theme for the menu, but it's very modern and flexible with the ingredients that they use. I think that Todd's coming back on. Do you have a French heritage? Is your family originally from France, or how did you come up with the name? And I noticed your last name looks like it's French, but I was curious about that.
Yeah, my a ways back, sure, the my great great grandparents or something like that are from France by way of Canada and Louisiana. So
Oh,
basically, Cajun, as people would say. So, but I didn't grow up. I grew up in Texas.
oh,
Um, so the name comes from it's a grape varietal that was brought here by the Spanish for sacramental wine from the Canary
oh,
Islands, and it does really well in this kind of climate. Canary Islands obviously are hotter and have more highs and lows as far as like it's very windy there, it's very sunny. So they happened to bring this, and they knew it traveled well, so they brought it here for sacramental wine, and they just planted it next to the monasteries and things like that. And then it actually crossed with native grapes, and you can still find it wild Lenoir all around central Texas.
wow.
The other interesting thing is the original Lenoir is what they plant whenever they're making vineyards. They'll plant a bunch of Lenoir. They'll take the Lenoir rootstock, cut it off, splice in whatever
Mm.
grape that they actually want, and then that's what they'll plant on Lenoir rootstock throughout Texas because it does really well. It's very disease resistant. So a lot of Lenoir is grown throughout Central Texas, but like on farms, but not necessarily for the grape, just for the rootstock to splice things too.
That is
Um,
interesting.
Jess's family is Spanish, and so we kind of thought that it told our story of Spanish and French coming together. Now it's native to Central Texas, that kind of thing. So
That's cool. So what are the roles that you and your wife have in the restaurant? Do you run it together?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we run it together. Um, I'm the chef of it, but she also has a lot of say in the food part. We talk. Hi. We talk all the time about the menu, where we're getting stuff from. We, I'll make things. Other people will make things that are on our team. And most of the time, whenever we make stuff as far as savory food, I'll make something and then I'll give it to Jess to try. And she'll say, "Yeah, I like it. No, I don't. It needs these sorts of things." She's kind of, for me, a very important sounding board. And then she'll also just kind of come up with things, come up with ideas. What about certain aspects? She's a little bit more geared towards pastry because that's what she's done a little bit more in her professional career, but she's also been a savory cook, so she understands a lot of it. And then she really is the business person. She, does the payroll, makes sure that the taxes are paid, and a lot more of that stuff.
Mm.
I run usually the day-to-day operations of the restaurant a little bit more. So I'm in there, working with the cooks, working with the front of house, working late, things like that. She does a lot more of the business stuff. Um, yeah, and we're at this point where who knows what we are. The business is kind of halfway running because of takeout, but there is really a lot more of the business part of it as far as everything, taxes, uh, you know, so um, unemployment, all those different things, what's happening, what's not happening, what the new regulations are, what the old regulation. It's unbelievable. So the other things have kind of flipped. She work actually a lot more right now, and I'm actually at home pseudo homeschooling.
Well, yeah.
You saw how well at the beginning of the video my homeschooling is working, but it's yeah, right now it's just a crazy world. It's just really everything upside down. I'm at home homeschooling and trying to communicate with the guys at the restaurant that are making the food,
Mhm.
and Jess is there doing a similar job, but also really buckling down on what business is
Mhm.
and what it potentially might be coming out of this. Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
so, right when stay-at-home orders went into place, did you guys decide immediately that you were going to do a takeout menu, or did that take some time to put in?
We decided about 2 days before stay-at-home orders came in to close.
Oh,
At that point, we're thinking, oh, maybe we'll close for a couple of weeks.
Right.
And now that's, a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
So we decided, okay, we're going to close. And then we had to kind of reassess and say, okay, now how are we going to do this for a longer term? Because it very quickly escalated into that it was not going to be a short-term thing. And then we said, well, without really thinking, I feel like, it was pretty much my decision. I think I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do takeout, and we're going to do a bunch of other stuff. And without realizing that nobody views us as a takeout restaurant. So I think for us in a little bit uphill battle, kind of re-educating, like, oh, hey, we're going to do takeout now, because in the past I was so adamant against takeout.
Yeah.
We've never done takeout. People could take stuff if they had leftovers or something, but I'm actually not a big proponent of leftovers either at a restaurant or taking food out. I feel like don't try and kill people with food. That's not the point. The point is to give people the right amount of food. And then really none of the food that we made at the restaurant previous to this would work as to-go food anyway. It just doesn't make any sense. So the thought process of I'm not going to give people food that isn't going to be good, even if they want it. So we just would never do it, even if people asked for it.
And so
then
you have a really creative to-go menu, though, like picnics and like sandwiches
on our bread. So one of the things that we've been doing for a long time that people really like us for is that we make a bunch of different types of interesting bread with Barton Springs Mill flours, and then we'll incorporate all sorts of crazy things into the bread. We put cheese in the bread, we put tomatoes or fermented things or all sorts of different stuff. Our baker is very talented, and so we would always have a different bread that was constantly rotating, even 3 or 4 times a night, because we would only have like, we got 4 loaves of whatever it is, smoked sweet potato bread or whatever. So we thought, well, why don't we take that and make sandwiches, take variations of things that we've done in the past and turn them to sandwiches. So we just take the bread and kind of cure it in different ways to make fun sandwiches, which are really good. And then a friend of ours had this idea of, well, what's Lenoir known for? It's known for date night. So why not continue that, but just try to accomplish that at home? So we give people all the things to give themselves like a little 3-course dinner at their house, where they, you just warm a couple things up, and bang, you have a little 3-course. And then we've gone into like more pantry staples, so selling some of the stuff we prepare, like hot sauces. We normally prepare, but you don't really see it as the guest. So like frito is something that we kind of always have around. Hot sauce, misos, curry paste, so a bunch of different things like that. So we started to say, we can start some of that. We have these Churchill Creek eggs we love. They're amazing. Oh, that was a good jump. And so we're like, we'll just kind of start selling a couple of pantry items, and then some meal kits and planning. And then we're doing Sunday supper, which is Wednesday through Sunday. And Sundays we were like, can we do that would just be a little bit more fun for us? So last week we did tacos, got a grill it yourself taco thing. This week we're doing a crawfish boil because we are big into crawfish boils. Anyway,
yeah,
not necessarily like at the restaurant, although we have done a charity crawfish boil pretty much every year for the last 5 years.
And this is here, right?
This is got to be the year because nobody's eating them. So, the crawfish season and the weather's been really good for crawfish this year. So I'm really excited to see what those crawfish look like when they come in on Saturday. And yeah, just kind of supply and demand. There's not a bunch of crawfish boils happening. So this year is going to be a good crawfish season. Next year is going to be unbelievable because there's going to be a bunch of old crawfish out there. So I'm looking forward to that too. So that's going to be this Sunday. We're going to do basically take home crawfish boils, and then we have Mother's Day brunch picnic coming up the following week. And then we don't know. The idea was we're taking this one day at a time for about 2 weeks. And then I decided we're going to do takeout for a month, and then we're going to reassess it. And Mother's Day is the last day of that month. we now have the ability to reopen if we want to, I guess, with some weird stipulations like that. So we're really have to figure out what reentry looks like, if at all, right now. That's one thing on our plate.
Uncharted territory and just day to day, right? We can't.
Yeah.
We did plan way ahead. All those plans would get thrown out the window, right?
Right. Well, and that's the thing is I made that month-long plan because I was thinking that's around the time when we might be thinking about reentry. But even at that point, I thought it would still be probably 3 weeks away from that date. And now, of course, it's like, oh no, the governor's like, tomorrow, this Friday, you guys go ahead, which doesn't obviously make a whole lot of sense. You can't just fire up a restaurant. You just can't fire up a restaurant. You can't shut it down and fire it back up quickly like that. Oh no, that's just like a little picklage.
Well, yeah, I'm so sorry for all the restaurants, and I mean the list just goes on and on and on of all the. Every day I kind of think of a whole different industry that's been impacted, and it's overwhelming. You can't even wrap your brain around how big this impact has been, and I really applaud you and admire you for just kind of the way you've reacted, and that you guys have been trying different things, and I'm sure that it is helpful for your staff, even if it's not the making the profits and getting the business anywhere in terms of financials, but just like keeping things rolling for a couple of months while everything is shut down must help with everybody's mental health in a way, and just to have a purpose every day to get up and go make the food and make other people happy by making the food. I mean,
it's amazing. I've always thought of myself, because of the nature of the restaurant and the fact that things change all the time, that I'm not a creature of habit, that I don't, need to get up Saturday morning and read the paper. Like some people they're very regimented in that way. And I've always thought, I'm not that way. I just easy come, easy go. I've changed up all the time. And this has definitely made me understand that even though I'm not as rigid as a lot of people, I still have to have some sort of structure in my life, or else things get real weird real fast. And the structure can become something new quickly for me. That's not a problem. But once you're left with like, okay, you're just staring into this void of time. It became very apparent, like, oh, the rest of the stuff, running a restaurant, and even homeschool, which is difficult, wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part is trying to get back into some sort of routine, especially when everything changes every single week. So even this last week, really trying to refocus on myself and refocus on it with my kids and my wife. My wife is a big runner, and she's, for 3 weeks, it was very sporadic for her, and it was difficult. And she's got back into a good routine of running pretty much every day. My exercise routine has started back up a little bit. But it's so much. I think, I don't know if humanity or just the routine. We all have to have a routine, even if it's a small routine. And I realize what my routine is I go to work.
Yeah.
Pretty much. If I'm not going to work on a specific day, then it's like, oh, something's different. Even on my look around this house is that it's my day off, so I was only there for 10 hours. So that's a normal, I'm not really, if I'm there for 10 hours, that means I'm not really working. I mean, it's like, oh, I didn't go in and do a bunch of stuff, so real day starts at 12 hours and goes up. So I will be happy to get back to work. That's for sure. But the other thing that I learned is, because my boys and I have been sparked an interest in fishing, and we went to what's that big rock called?
Oh, Enchanted Rock?
Enchanted Rock, yeah. We went to Enchanted Rock yesterday, and it's nice to go and do outdoorsy stuff. And the flip side of it is all the self-assessment and figuring out what you need is, what do I want this to look at, my life to look like when we come out the other side of the thing. And that is, I really feel like it needs to turn into more of that, just outdoors time, hiking, fishing, doing things that I've always really loved doing, but just never do. So
Yeah, it's
I'm looking forward to that.
We just started riding our bikes since this started. And we always used to go to Barton Springs or Deep Eddy and kind of do a workout there or do some yoga and do a little swim. And that was kind of our outdoor time and our exercise. And now that they're both closed, we've been doing all of our exercise from home, and we discovered all of these trails and secluded green belts, and some of them we knew were there, but there's a lot of other ones that we didn't know. The Violet Crown Trail is all finished near us. We didn't even know about that.
Oh, cool.
So it was like, wow, we would have missed out on this stuff for another 5 years probably, because we would have been busy driving our car somewhere.
Right. Well, and driving and going to the parks that you know, and that everybody know. Oh, we're going to go to Zilker. There's one, Diaz. I can't remember. We went to it. It's over by the airport, and it's definitely like kind of a forgotten park. I feel like because it's in the flight path of the airport, and it's over on the east side, and it's a beautiful park. And we went there to go fishing because Onion Creek goes through it. And so we were just like messing around. Nobody's there. And of course, it was at the beginning. I don't know if travel has really picked back up again or not, but there were no planes coming in and out. And I was like, oh, this is a great little park. And then Metropolitan State Park, which is out past the airport as well. Great park, huge, long trails that nobody's on. And we've been to Metropolitan Park before. Nobody was on those trails before, but it's good to rediscover those places.
Yeah, it's amazing, this time, just full of so many different emotions and hardships and blessings, and it's just amazing. Something we never could have predicted would happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well. Are you interested in helping me make some lunch over here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, thought I should get my jar of spoons just in case. So I know one thing that's in common with chefs around the city and around the world, when times get tough, we just keep cooking, right?
Yeah.
Makes you
lots of cooking.
To, create something that's going to be nourishing for yourself and your family, or to, make for other people in case of your restaurant. And so we've been cooking every single day, 3 meals a day since this started. And we've been getting farm boxes from a couple places. And so we just got one last night, and I also have a little bit left over from last week. So I wanted to kind of show you what we have, and we might be able to come up with a quick meal to make. And I've got a little portable here. And so we've got some, I think this is tot soy, this and a little bit of bok choy, or baby bok choy, carrots and daikon, the zucchini that I showed you before. I don't know the name of this. It's like a Roman zucchini, maybe?
Yep.
I don't know. And then these are from our garden, some onions, spring onions, kohlrabi. I made a little salad with this the last time I used it. I've got garlic and ginger from the store, and some mushrooms from the store. I've got some cauliflower that's already chopped up or cut into florets.
Do you guys have a garden at your house?
We have a chef's herb garden, and actually now I've added a couple of tomato plants just for the heck of it. and we planted some seeds with the boys just as a kind of a science project of some other edible stuff. They haven't popped up yet, but I also have like green onions. We planted artichoke yes, seeds. We planted artichoke seeds.
It's really fun if those come up. They're so big.
And I always have shallots and things like that that we grow, but we use it really for the tops, just as green onions. And we're experimenting with some new stuff. The things for our backyard, we've always been okay with. Our trees have grown so much in the last 2 years, so it's so shaded back there, it's hard to grow anything.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
we've also got some fresh herbs on the porch if we need them, like mint and thyme and oregano and sage. And I've got some parsley here too. And then I've got some condiments. I have some yellow curry paste.
Nice.
I have some daikon pickles that I made. They're like the purple daikon.
Yeah.
Some coconut milk.
Oh, yeah.
And then I've got some rice that's already cooked. And I also have a can of pink salmon. I haven't tapped into any of our canned goods yet. Little tomato paste, fish sauce. So got a lot to work with, but I was hoping to use some of these fresh veggies. And
what about, do you have a mandolin? Like a little bin rainer mandolin or something like that?
I have a really sharp knife and I have a grater.
Okay.
What are you thinking?
Cool. Well, that squash is like the perfect size. It doesn't. You can do it with your knife, but it's way easier with a mandolin. What I'll do with a squash like that is take the top and the bottom, and then just slice it into long strips, and then cut it down the middle. So maybe if you cut it down the middle first, and then try to slice it into long, you basically make pasta out of it. And then I would take like the yellow curry paste. Oh, do you have a peeler?
Yeah, I was just thinking that I could use this.
You could try to use the peeler. Yeah, that could. I've never tried that before, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. And then we take the shallots or your onion, garlic, and ginger.
And
just mince them up fine. Start sautéing those while this other stuff is working, and then we'll basically make like a vegetarian. Oh, I'm probably not going to remain vegetarian. Pasta dish with you.
With the
you could also
zucchini noodles.
Yeah, exactly. And the cauliflower, all the vegetables can go in later. But probably I would take and start making that base of the curry will be with some of the more basey vegetables. So like the ginger, garlic, just like you're doing onyons and stems. I like to take the stems of pretty much anything and cut them down and cook them all down, almost like mirepoix with everything else.
So like the stems of the spring onion, you mean?
The stem of the spring onion and the stem of your bok choy, yu choy.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys, it just kind of it gives the stems are more earthy. It gives you that earthiness, but it also I want those to cook down more than I want the leaves to cook down. I want that stuff to kind of cook down and get soft, and then at the end I'll just kind of rip up or cut up the leaves and throw them in.
Okay, because you want the leaves to stay fresh.
I don't want the leaves to turn, especially on those. Like if it was collard greens or something more hearty, you want it to cook down. But those, you want to almost treat them like herbs, where they just kind of wilt right at the end. This is weird. I'm like getting antsy now. I feel like I need to come through the screen and do stuff.
Okay, so I'll ask you a couple questions. So what kind of oil should I use in making the saute here with the garlic and the ginger and the onion and the stem? I've got olive, sesame, and coconut here.
Well, if we're going to add coconut milk to it later, you should just do coconut milk.
Okay. Coconut.
It'll make it kind of more coconutty from the beginning.
Sounds good. Well, this is great. And I decided I think I'm going to use the zucchini that I already had because it's a little hard to get this into ribbons because of all the ridges.
Got it. Cool.
But I'll do that in a minute. Okay, so I got my ginger. I kind of grated that up after I peeled it. And then I'll get some garlic in there. So I never really cooked with yellow curry much before. I just used the red and the green ones. But they started carrying this new brand at Central Market. Have you used it?
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, it is, and it's a great. You have a lot of things here that are great arsenals just to have around, right? Like it's always good to have a good stock of things that are just like, oh, it's not going to go bad once it gets opened. It can just pop in a little bit, and it can go in anything, especially that yellow curry because it's not so spicy or like.
It's kind of turmeric based, and
it's not a takeover. It almost has a
garlic, lemongrass, shallots, galangal, and then dried red chili, kefir lime. So it's
you're almost mimicking what's in that with what you're about to put in the pot and cook down. So it's just going to reinforce it, and then but make it more fresh. Because the stuff about curries, most of them, especially like that, are that they've been cooked down and they're so homogeneous that you don't really pick out exact flavors. As opposed to whenever you cook something fresh, it's going to have more spikes. Like that's garlic, that's nutrients, that's whatever it is. So the combination of having something that's, I don't want to call it old, but just like
pre-made.
Yeah, like a shelf stable item. That's something that we do a bunch at Lenoir. Is we have our pantry of things that we spend a lot of time making. So like our philosophy at the restaurant is that there are lots of wonderful things that you can buy out there, but if we can make it, then we should make it. So for instance, what we have in our pantry right now, like available online, is a red curry paste that we've made with a bunch of, fresh spices and things that we bought at the market. We have sofrito. Sofrito is another one of those things that, especially if you're buying stuff from the farmers market, you end up with a bunch of pieces that you're like, I don't really know. I got beets, but a beet is like the size of a ping pong ball.
Yeah.
And then the leaves and the stems are 90% of it. So then you're like, well, what am I going to do with the rest of this stuff?
Yeah, I actually have some of those tiny beets in my fridge because I haven't known what to do with those yet.
Yeah.
We used the greens already from those baby beets, but we haven't used the root part because they were so tiny.
Yeah, whenever they're super tiny like that, I don't even cook them. I'll just take them and slice them up and put them in a salad because once they get cooked, there's kind of nothing left there,
Yeah, so
and there's multiple ways to cook a beet. Most chefs will take a beet and they'll kind of want to concentrate the flavor, so they'll toss it in olive oil and salt and pepper, wrap it in aluminum foil, and bake it in the oven. So it'll kind of steam, but it'll concentrate the beatiness of it. With those little ones, I will take them and boil them. Then it doesn't concentrate the flavor as much, but they cook a lot faster, and they don't kind of turn to nothing. There's still something left there.
I had roasted some golden beets last week that I got at the farmer's market or the CSA box.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured that I would just use them throughout the week in salads, just slice them up. And so I roasted them whole.
Yeah.
Because I had the oven on already. And it turns out one of my cats loves golden beets.
But
So she ended up eating almost all of them because I would take them out of the fridge to use, and she would come running over, and I would hand her a slice, and she would just.
wow.
So she would eat like 2 slices at a time, and then I didn't want to give her too much because I thought it might be too much
Yeah.
for her system to handle. But she probably ate 2 pretty large beets last week.
My dog eats rocks. He eats a lot of decomposed granite for some reason. I don't know why.
Oh, well, it might be the minerals.
Maybe he's missing minerals in his diet. I don't know. I'm afraid he's going to break one of his teeth one of these days. Sit out in our back where the decomposed granite is and find just a perfect little rock and then chop and eat it. So,
wow.
I don't know. Crazy dog.
Well, this is a great idea to put some of the stems in first. And so we were talking before we went on the air about cooking without a recipe, right?
Right. Yeah.
When I learned how to cook, I referenced a lot of recipes when I was in culinary school, and I would write down everything that the teacher said on the recipe, and I would try it at home. And it's very helpful to use recipes as you're learning. But then at some point, getting away from the recipe is good because you can kind of get crippled by thinking you have to have everything exactly the way the recipe says or exactly. But most of the time when you're at home cooking, or say if you're trying to get your ingredients from the farmer's market, you're not going to have everything that a certain recipe.
Especially in the right increments. You know, you can always tell a recipe follower when you go to their house and you open the fridge and they have like little half cans or quarter cans of a bunch of different weird things because they're like, well, it said I get 2 tablespoons of this weird esoteric harissa paste or whatever it is, but I never used it again because no other recipe called for that again. And it's like, well, just use it in something else. Just, do you like the flavor of it? It'll work with whatever it is that you're cooking, put it in there. And so, yeah, the idea of following a recipe at the beginning is important. Learning some basic cooking techniques and theories of like why things are there. And then as soon as people are able to put the recipes down and just maybe glance over something like, this is what goes into this dish. Okay, well, I don't have all those things, but I'm just going to kind of wing it. And the sooner they start what I consider cooking, the better. You know, people spend too much time really trying to figure out how to follow a recipe as opposed to how to cook. And I feel like this is a big disservice that cookbooks. There's a lot of cookbooks out there. Of course, I used to own a cookbook shop, so I have a bunch of cookbooks. I love cookbooks for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But most of the reasons is just inspiration. Most cookbooks really should be pictures and stories, and maybe a thing at the end that has the recipes if you really want to know exactly what you put in there. But recipes to me they're not useless, but they're just really highly overrated. And especially if, like you said, you're going to be shopping at the farmer's market, you're not going to get all the stuff that's in that recipe. But you can still make amazing, great food, even possibly better food because of certain surprises that you'll find along the way, and a lot cheaper. And then our refrigerator right now is probably bare because we've just been cooking, just like you said, and you go in, you figure out what you have, and you just make something out of it. So
yeah. And we're just stocked up because we got our CSA box yesterday, so we're flush with veggies. I just put some cauliflower in.
Yeah,
because
I
that'll
saw
take a
that.
while to cook. When do you think I should start putting in the curry paste? Should I wait?
I would say so. I saw you put a little bit of water in there.
Yeah.
So just like let it dry out a little bit, and then add the curry paste.
Okay, it's dried out now. Yeah, I was thinking.
Add the curry paste and just kind of you're kind of blooming it almost like making just tables probably whatever you like depending on, and then stir that around. It's going to stick to the bottom, which is fine. Just let it stick and kind of get aromatic. And once you feel like it's at the point where it's as aromatic as it's going to get, and before it starts to really brown and burn, add your water, and then let's see what else we can. Yeah, and add your coconut milk and let it come to a simmer, and then you've basically made your pasta sauce. You're pretty much done. You could take that. You don't season it, salt and pepper or whatever, or fish sauce is the other thing. It's kind of like a secret weapon of people shy away from fish sauce a lot because they're like, ooh,
Oh, it's so good.
Got that.
yeah, you smell it, that smells like rotten fish, but you eat it and it's like Parmesan or any sort of great umami flavor. And something like this, it'll be a great fresh thing, but as soon as you add that little bit of fish to it, it'll just change the whole dynamic of the dish.
Yeah, I've had this experience before where I ordered like a pad thai with vegetables in it because I didn't really want chicken that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, well, I'll just get the pad thai with some extra greens in it or something. And then they bring it to me and it doesn't taste like pad thai, it's just very bland.
Yeah.
I said, oh, well, we made it vegan and we didn't put the fish sauce in. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
piece of
Yeah.
fish sauce. That's what I like about pad thai is the fish sauce flavor.
And that's the thing, like you use it at the end, towards the end as a seasoning, right? It's really salty, it's very pungent, but you just season at the end to your liking. It's super good. And it's one of those things where my kids, whenever I put fish sauce in something, they always hate it. I'm about to do it. It's like anchovies in a Caesar, right? Like, no, I don't want any, but if you take it out, it's like not any good. And the other thing that I would say is like, well, so you have lemons or lemongrass in your in your
I
paste.
think I have
So,
lemongrass that's probably pretty dried up and old in the fridge. You want?
well, it's already in your paste there. See, I don't know that you necessarily need it, but you could finish also right at the end with your sauce with lemon juice and some zest to compound that flavor. Or something that I like to do that's maybe not 100% with this one, but if I make a braise or make a sauce, I'll finish it with the pickling liquid instead of if I feel like it needs some acidity.
Oh, okay.
It has all the flavors of and like the little bit of funkiness. You said that that's pickled kohlrabi or radishes.
Finally, she's making someone.
Yeah, she's cooking up a storm right now.
So I'm putting some carrots in here too.
Cool.
Yeah,
So you're saying that so in every dish you want to have a balance of flavors, right? And so you're saying at the end you might want to add either some lemongrass or some lemon juice for acidity, or are you saying like a little pickling liquid?
Right. So pickling liquid is not like if you add straight vinegar to things, it's very stringent,
Yeah.
But if you the pickling liquid has been tempered by the juice from the vegetables, and then whatever seasoning that you've put into it also will be incorporated into it. So it's really nice.
So I pickled these with ume plum vinegar and water,
Ooh, that sounds good.
half and half. So yeah, might try that. At the very
Yeah, that's really good.
plate with some of these pickles.
Oh,
yeah.
You ready to do sight words?
Do some zucchini. Was that going to be added towards the end?
Right. So the zucchini, you get everything right where you want it, and then just take your zucchini ribbons or whatever it is and fold it in. You could theoretically blanch them like pasta and add them, but they cook down so fast.
Oh my gosh, how did that happen?
Look at that. She's peeling it into ribbons, so she's going to use like pasta.
No, why is she there?
Oh, because it's just little pixels.
Peelers are so easy to use.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks great. And so I would just take them and put it in and let it cook. Shut off the heat. Let it cook. Once again, just like your other greens and stuff, you want it to be just barely cooked, really fresh and light, and then you can take it and twist it up once it's done, and plate it like pasta.
And then alternatively, if I wanted to blanch it hot, I could.
I can't hear what she's saying. Okay, enough, please.
I do want to do blood.
Nelson thought of an interesting the new generation kids right now that are. He thought we could call them Zoomers.
Oh goodness! He's trying to nibble my ears.
Look at this. I can go through it.
Yeah, the great thing about this is whenever you're done with it, I mean, barring the little bit of fish sauce, you're basically just eating a bunch of vegetables, which will be nice as far as like how you feel. But then also fat from the coconut milk will sustain you for a good amount of time. So it's not like you'll eat it and you'll be like, oh, I'm hungry again in 10 minutes. It should hold you over for a while.
Yeah, so being satisfied with your meals is so important, right? So that you don't feel like you want to snack all day and just grab for things that are unhealthy. Actually, make something that's going to satisfy you for a while, right?
Yeah, and so much of that has to do with fat, in our bodies. And, if you eat more fat, and that has it, like, there's many types of fats out there, obviously, your body, it takes a little bit longer for it to process and keeps you fuller for longer. And so that's why, you eat a big heavy meal, it sticks with you for a day. But our body is always still searching for carbs, right? That's why we love carbs so much. Our body's predisposed to want that burst of energy, but our body processes it very quickly. So you eat it, processes it into sugar, and then you either use that sugar or you store that sugar. And we all know we don't want to store that sugar anymore.
And so what were you saying about the role of fat in that metabolism of?
So it's harder takes longer to metabolize, and fat doesn't metabolize into sugars in your bloodstream not near as much as starches and grains and sugar itself and fruit. So if you increase the amount of fat that you put in foods, it will sustain you longer. So you won't be as hungry as often, and won't metabolize into sugar, which your body either burns or stores. So it's kind of twofold. 2 years ago, when I started on a higher fat diet, just in general, it's like more cheeses, more oils, but clean oils, good oils, more animal fats and things like that. And I noticed pretty much right away I was eating a lot less. And but as soon as I kind of start falling off that wagon, I would always fall off that wagon with starch. And you can eat starch all day, and
it doesn't fill you up.
And it doesn't fill you up, but it's still there. It's still something, and your body is still breaking down and using it, right? So, in this specifically, you got great coconut fat, lots of vegetables, so greens are going to go in there. This is going to make a really awesome lunch. And the starch content of it, I mean, that squash has a little bit of starch, but not near as much as a pasta or even rice. So, as far as health goes, this is a pretty solid meal. If you added that little bit of what was it, canned tuna,
salmon, yeah,
you could take that right at the end and just because it's already cooked. You don't need to cook it more, and especially like if you're going to add them and try and heat them up, they can get really grainy. So if you just open that up and just kind of folded it in right at the end for a little extra protein, I bet you it'd be great.
And that would really hold us till dinner.
Yeah. I haven't had lunch yet, so now I'm extra hungry.
I know. I wish that we could send this through the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can just kind of crumble that up a little bit. I just put the greens in so that they would, but they don't need much cooking time. And something that I learned in macrobiotic cooking, that's the type of cooking that I studied initially. I've got all these different kinds of vegetables in here, like root vegetables that grow underneath the ground, and then I use the tops from the onions that grow above the ground, and then cauliflower that grows in the nice round shape above the ground, and then carrots that grow below the ground, and then the leafy greens from the tatsoi. So we've got like all these different vegetables that have different energetic properties according to how they grow.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's been a good way to guide making meals without a recipe too, because I always think, do I have a root vegetable and a leafy green vegetable and something that also grows along the surface of the ground, like a squash or broccoli?
Yeah.
So it helps you get that variety that you need throughout the day.
Diversity is key.
Fish.
It's also key because you were talking earlier about your gardening. So it's also key in gardening. You have your different things that grow in your garden. They're beneficial for each other, but then it also helps all the flora and fauna that it can be beneficial for growing. It's oh nice.
So I'm putting the zucchini noodles in this hot water since I already had it boiling. And back.
Yeah, those will wilt right up, and basically you'll see they just turn right into essentially pasta, into nice soft noodles, and then
I drain
them, and then in your pot stir it up. Make sure you're seasoned nicely. You could finish it off if you really wanted to. Like you probably are going to want some sort of a little bit of acid in there because of all the fat from the coconut and everything else to kind of draw everything out.
Okay.
So either that lemon or a little bit of your vinegar, and I would even take some of those pickles and chop them up and throw it on top of one for just some pops of acid.
Okay, that sounds amazing. That's really why I make these pickles over and over as long as I can. Well, you can make them with purple daikon. That's my favorite because they come out this color.
Yeah.
But then you can also make them with red radishes. You can make them with red onions the same way. But I love to have them as a garnish. Like we put them on tacos. We put them in bowls. Even if we're making like a poached egg and greens, just put them on the top. And they're just so beautiful. And they just have a sour, salty, almost sweet flavor. But there's no sugar in it. It's just from the vegetable being pickled.
Yeah, that's another key to the arsenal for me is pickles. Whether they're store bought or not, pickles and pickling liquid or pickle brine, whatever you call it. Yeah, great. See how it just turns perfectly delicious. So it's great and it's fun.
Yeah, man.
But finishing things off with pickle juice, I'm one of those people that will just kind of drink pickle juice too because I just love it. There's something about, like you were saying, the funkiness and the sweetness that whatever the vegetable is that you pickled imparts into the vinegar, and it makes it into its own kind of little cocktail.
Yeah, I know life without pickles would just not be the same.
No, not worth it.
Okay, so I think I'm ready to serve this up. I always like to put some kind of fresh herb too, but
You had some parsley. Is that parsley?
yeah, I've got some parsley here. That would be
Behind you.
behind me.
On the other side. There you go. Add some parsley, almost anything. Like the big joke at work is that I don't like certain herbs, which is pretty true. I like fresh herbs like this, what I call soft herbs. So parsley, basil, chive, anything like that is what I really go for. I don't use a lot of hard herbs, so like I don't use a lot of rosemary. I don't use a lot of sage, things like that, because to me they don't really go with the food that we make in a lot of ways. But also
It cooks
they're
a little
so
longer, I think, than these can just be put right on the top, right?
yeah, absolutely. We just take them and just rip them. It garnishes most of the food that we make because it's just fresh herbs. Something raw also to me is very important. Like in every dish, there's got to be. Whenever I'm putting together dishes that I love, there's got to be some sort of spice or spiciness to it, acid, fat, and if it's a cooked dish, definitely something raw to garnish it or with it.
So that was a great idea to put the pickles on here. I mean, it just makes it really bright.
Yeah, looks like you put flowers on there. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. So this is an example of how cooking together, right? It's like I would have made this curry in a different way, and maybe you would have made it in a different way if we had just been making it in a vacuum by ourselves. But we were kind of creating it as we went with each other's suggestions, and then we came up with something that was even better than what one of our minds probably could have come up with, maybe.
Yeah, and we did it on the fly, just with a bunch of stuff that you had. And I think we started this in 20 minutes ago, maybe.
Yeah.
We started it. I was talking, so
I didn't have anything prepped ahead of time, so it really can be made very quickly. And
Hold them right up above the cutting board so I can get an overhead view real quick.
okay, Nelson's going to try to get an overhead of the curry bowls.
And above the cutting board and the pan.
Right
Yeah,
here, like that.
That's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's good.
Well, we're looking forward to trying some of the takeout from Lenoir because eventually there's not going to be takeout menu, so we've got to try it while we're there.
Well, that's it. That's something that Jess and I were just talking about. As we ease back into it, there's going to have to be a takeout menu for a while because they're still not comfortable to come to the dining room, which is fine. And then we had all these other conversations like, is it now going to become part of something that we do at the restaurant, having takeout? We don't know yet, but it's a conversation that we're having. So,
Yeah.
But definitely, whenever the restaurant opens and you feel comfortable, please come. Please.
And you're located on South Lamar, really close to
It's actually South First Street. South First between Annie and Mary.
Right.
So
yeah, South First Street between Annie and what?
And Mary. We're kind of patty corner from the Bolden Creek Coffee House, down the street from Sway and Elizabeth Street.
Right. So amazing restaurants all in that little area there. You can just walk from one to the next.
Yeah, it really is. It's beautiful, really nice. And in the last 10 years, tons of good restaurants in that neighborhood. So
and you have that really great bar area in the back with the live
that's our dining room probably for the foreseeable future because our indoor dining room is small. You run into that same problem of people and their relation to other people. Whereas we do have a really nice big outdoor area where we can kind of keep people separated. So that's the point.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being part of the community here in the show today. And we will put up a bunch of links for people to visit Lenoir right now. And I'll put something up on my newsletter too. We can keep in touch with you.
Cool. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
See you soon.
Bye.